Greetings fellow Mist Wanderers, my name is Steve Morgan and this is DM of the Mists, covering all things CoS of Strahd and Ravenloft. One of the most popular videos on my channel is 8 mistakes CoS of Strahd DMs make. As time's gone on since I made that video, I've thought of some more, found some more, and I thought I'd do a part 2, so here's 8 more. For reference and as a reminder, this is the list of 8 from the first video covering my face, likely. The ones with asterisks next to them are ones that I think are possibly affected by the 2014 rules. When I put that video out, I think those rules had only just come out, and there was one I talk about in the video saying, oh, I think this might be affected by the new rules, but I think others are as well, so just be aware of that. But yeah, here are some more. Just to reiterate what I said last time, this isn't done out of any sort of negative place, like, haha, you got it wrong if you watch these and realise you got it wrong in your place. Goodness knows I make so many mistakes when I'm DMing, so I'm not one to talk. It's more intended as a heads up if you are just about to start running CoS of Strahd, or you're in the middle of CoS of Strahd, might be worth watching these, and hopefully they're mistakes you can avoid as well. Number 1, making the Vistani untrustworthy. This is important early on because it can affect whether the players decide to go to the card reading or not. If they encounter some Vistani early on who aren't very friendly, then they might think, do we really want to go to a camp where they are and get this reading? You know, could put them off. And that's, you know, if that happens, but it's bad. It's a shame because the card reading is so important to the campaign and it's so good and so much fun that missing out on that either early on or, you know, because they could always go back and get it another time, or missing out on it at all can be a real shame. The way this happens is either the 3 Vistani in the Blood of the Vine Tavern in the village of Barovia aren't very friendly to the PCs, or I've seen some people do an intro where the Vistani bring them into Barovia, but then they're kind of dumped, or they go to sleep and they wake up and they're on their own. So stuff like that could then make them think when they hear about Surf Hull Encampment and hear about Madame Eva's reading, they might go, nah, maybe not. And you can kind of understand why. If it were me, the 3 Vistani in the Village of Barovia Tavern, I would have them maybe be sassy, but quite generally helpful. A good workaround I found through Darkport Productions, who are some friends of mine, and they are doing a actual play of CoS of Strahd at the moment. I think they've done Death House and they're just leaving Village of Barovia. Is when they met the 3 Vistani in the tavern, they didn't come across as very friendly at first, but then Ismark told them later that, you know, don't let those 3 sour your view of the Vistani. The Vistani are generally pretty good people, and I think we should swing by Surf Hull Encampment on the way to Vallaki to see Madame Eva. So that could be a way to do it. Have Ismark and potentially Ireena reassure the PCs, the players, that, you know, hashtag not all Vistani. By the way, if you're running the Mysterious Visitors hook, you can probably ignore this because I believe they get taken straight from outside Barovia into Barovia straight to Madame Eva's camp and would therefore have the reading straight away. So there's probably less of an issue that. Unless you roleplay the Vistani they meet before that as unfriendly, then they might think, well, we don't want to stick around. Number 2, having the Black Carriage present the first time the PCs go through that area. I've seen Reddit posts in the past where people say, help, my players have gone straight to Castle Ravenloft after the Village of Barovia. And in some cases, when pressed, people say, oh yeah, there was a Black Carriage and they got in and it took them to Castle Ravenloft. The book says, and I quote, if Strahd has invited the characters to Castle Ravenloft or otherwise wants to steer them in his direction, add this, or say this next bit, and it's a box text that basically says, oh, there's a carriage there. The thing is the carriage is not supposed to be there. Even though the area's called Black Carriage, and a Black Carriage can be there, I'd say the first time they go through, there's no carriage. It's just a crossroads. But then if they say get the dinner invite, and then they're on the way to Castle Ravenloft, or maybe they're passing through, maybe they don't want to go for the dinner invite, but they're passing through, maybe they go run an errand to the Village of Barovia or something, and then they see the Black Carriage there. It's supposed to be a sort of temptation to get in and go, or, you know, help the journey a little bit quicker. Strahd's hospitality and all that. Hospitality. But yeah, first time you go through, no Black Carriage. Number 3, allowing Ireena to be harmed. I don't think it actually says this in the mod rules as written. I actually checked because I was convinced it was. But a lot of DMs have it that Ireena's not targeted by any of Strahd's minions when she's travelling with the party. For example, from Village of Barovia to Vallaki. It's almost as if there's an order not to touch or hurt her, or via the monsters he controls, such as the wolves and the zombies, that they just ignore her, basically. And that's likely to include, in addition to the wolves and zombies I've just mentioned, Rahadin, the consorts, the Vistani, the werewolves, and so on. The hags are debatable. I saw a discussion on the CoS Strahd subreddit recently where people were saying, oh yeah, the hags definitely know. But do they? Would they know, her significance? And they don't serve Strahd as well either. We know that they kind of just do their own thing. So maybe I'm wrong on that front, but I would have it that maybe the hags wouldn't care. So if the players swing by the old Bone Grinder on the way to Vallaki and they've got Ireena with them and they're casting their spells, she might be targeted. But in the grand scheme of things, it means she's only likely to be hurt by area of effect spells or something else out of, Ireena's or your player's control, such as they take her to Van Richten's tower and Ez's wagon explodes. It's good though, because her HP is low. It means she's less of a burden to the players, needing to worry about protecting her or healing her. Plus the PCs might pick up on it and might think it's really weird how we're fighting these monsters and none of them are targeting Ireena. Maybe have it as well that Ireena wants to help and she tries to attack the monsters and none of them are attacking her back. That could open up a really good role play thing and get them quite intrigued, thinking, this is really weird, why aren't they attacking her? That kind of thing. Number 4, plane shift spells. There's the alterations to magic section in chapter 2 that says spells like plane shift don't work except for going into the border ethereal. You can't transport yourself to or others to another plane because Buria is its own demi-plane and you can't leave it. And it also says as do effects that banish a creature to another plane of existence, so banishment as well. It's important to remember this in case the PCs cast plane shift or banishment, or the night hags at the windmill have some of those spells as well, including plane shift. Number 5, allowing the PCs to become wereravens. So you've got things like werewolf lycanthropy, which is very bad, turns people evil, and they might be able to control themselves and attack people, and you're going to have a lot of fun with that as a DM. But some lycanthropy, such as wereraven lycanthropy, can be good. It can actually be seen as a blessing. It doesn't turn people evil, and they can fly. Referring to the 2014 rules now, I don't think this applies in the 2024 rules. Lycanthropy means you're immune to non-magical damage that isn't silvered, or you have HP regeneration. It depends on which stat block. So I think the stat block in CoS Strahd is non-magical, non-silvered immunity. I think it either got updated in Van Richten's guide or Candlekeep Mysteries or something like that. There's a version where instead of that, it's HP regeneration. Whatever the case, if your players get Weraven lycanthropy during the events of CoS Strahd and then get one of those 2 attributes, that can make them really overpowered. And even if you don't, say if you're using the 2014 rules and those don't apply, they can fly. That's overpowered in a way as well. I know there's some DMs who don't like it, find it harder to balance encounters when you've got flying PCs. In my game, I only offered the gift of lycanthropy, Weraven lycanthropy, when all 3 gems were retrieved and Strahd was defeated. So I wouldn't offer it during the events of CoS Strahd, but maybe after CoS Strahd, which might feel pointless if you stop playing after CoS Strahd. If you're wrapping up the game or campaign where, when Strahd's defeated and you run the epilogue and you're not carrying on with those PCs after level 10 or whatever, then I understand that's a bit of a lame gift to give them that and then they can't even use it. But if you decide to run a sequel campaign like I'm doing a wider domain hopping campaign these days, then that could be really good. And 2 of my 3 PCs decided to take it in the end as well. Number 6, thinking that the castle's teleporter works both ways. It doesn't outright say that it works both ways, but it doesn't say it doesn't. But I think it's heavily implied that the teleport brazier in K78 in the castle only teleports you from the castle to various points within the castle or elsewhere in Barovia, and that you can't teleport from those destinations to the castle. So the T on the other map, such as the one in the coffin shop, is only for your reference as a DM. It's not something the PCs can find. It's not like a teleportation circle that's being drawn on the floor or a giant T. So it's meant to be they teleport from the castle to another area of the castle, or I think it's Vallaki, Selenka Pass, Amber Temple, and Kresk, if memory serves. But they can't go from those 4 places to the castle. If, however, they teleport somewhere bad, a common one is people teleport to the Amber Temple and they arrive there with no winter cold clothes, or it's the end game, you want to wrap up the campaign and them teleporting somewhere out of the castle is a big distraction and you haven't got the time for it, you could potentially homebrew it that they are both ways and that they can teleport straight back to the castle. That's probably something I would consider. Okay, these last 2 I'm on the fence about. I'm not sure if they are mistakes. They could be debatable. See what you think. Number 7, the final battle is meant to be done at level 9, not level 10. My interpretation is that it's at level 9 and then people level up at level 10 once they defeat Strahd. Because if you look at the areas by level table in the introduction chapter, it says that Castle Ravenloft is intended for level 9 PCs. Although I did notice while preparing this video, it does say average level, not level. So Yeah, it's debatable. Also, while researching this video, it says, and I quote, "The adventure is meant for characters of levels 1 to 10 and includes threats to those levels and beyond. Strahd can be especially a deadly challenge at these levels." So it's almost like the book is saying that actually you can be level 10 or maybe even higher, you know, fighting Strahd. But I think level 10 or higher could make the Strahd fight easier the more they level up. I ran it at, I think, level 9 and would be reluctant to run it any higher. Definitely a level 11 onwards, there's a power boost, so cantrips get stronger. There's more class abilities. I think wizards and other spellcasters can then start casting, I think it's like 6 level spells or a higher level spell slot. So I would say level 9. Some folks might say level 10. I'd probably say level 10 at the maximum. But obviously ignore me if you are doing a high level campaign on purpose, such as there's some DMs who run it up to say level 15. But you'll likely need to buff Strahd, but you're probably planning on doing that already. And number 8, letting Strahd take Ireena too early. This feels like harsh to say it's a mistake because the module does sort of encourage it. In chapter 1, when talking about Strahd's goals and talks about Ireena, it says, and I quote, "He intends to kill Ireena during their next meeting and turn her into his vampire spawn consort." Yet, there's posts on places like the Curse of Strahd subreddit where DMs will say, "Help, Strahd took Ireena really early on, now what?" Because Strahd has appeared either at the funeral or on the road to Vallaki or something like that, and you know, DMs might have followed that advice to heart and Strahd's taken Ireena at that point. You could either have Strahd not appear, I prefer a later introduction anyway, but that's a whole other video, or that he doesn't take her if he does. It does actually say later on in the same chapter, and I quote, "Strahd can sense the arrival of new blood in his domain. When newcomers enter Barovia, he shifts his attention from Ireena to his new guests." So I perceive it as the PC's arriving changes his plan. So perhaps that earlier line in saying that he intends to kill her should be that he intended to kill Ireena during their next meeting, but then the PC's arrived and his plans have changed. But yeah, whatever the case, Strahd taking Ireena early can derail the campaign. It can force the PCs to feel like they've got to rush to rescue her, maybe go to Castle Ravenloft. I do see some DMs say that they get like a wedding invite and say it's in a month's time. So there is like this ticking clock in the background, but it's not like, oh, you've got to rescue Ireena in like 2 days' time. You've got loads of time. But even so, it's a bit of a funny one. You got to remember as well is regardless of what rules is written says, you are in control. You can choose what Strahd does, when he does it. And sometimes you've got to do what's best for the story, the campaign, the players, and for you as the DM. Just because it says that Strahd had this plan in mind doesn't mean you have to necessarily say that he does it. And that's it for this one. Do you disagree with anything I've said? Did I make a mistake with any of my mistakes? How ironic that would be. Let me know in the comments. Upcoming videos on the Curse of Strahd front. So I've done a few videos about Heir of Strahd, the recent Ravenloft novel, doing some reviews. I'm also going to do a video where I say things you can use from Heir of Strahd and put in your Curse of Strahd campaign. I also want to do a video talking about what other domains of dread you can add to Curse of Strahd. So most of the domains of dread are sort of separate, but you can have domains that overlap, or one domain, a small domain can go inside a bigger domain, such as the Carnival and the Rider's Bridge. So I'll talk about a few examples. On the Ravenloft front, I'm thinking of doing a video about Lemordia, the domain of dread. There's kind of like Frankenstein's monsters kind of vibe, steampunk vibe going on as well. And I'd like to do a video about uses for the Taroka deck outside of Curse of Strahd. So say if you've got the physical Taroka deck like I do, you use it for Madame Uva's card reading and then you think, oh, that's it. But there's other ways you might be able to use it outside of Curse of Strahd. I think actually there might be a few ways you can use it in Curse of Strahd as well. But yeah, there's a few ideas for if you want to reuse your deck and do more Taroka readings in the future. And if you're stuck with me this long, thank you very much. I'd just like to say that this book came out recently. This is my second fantasy novel. The first one's currently only 99p, 99 cents on Kindle device on Amazon. And then this one came out as well, the sequel. It's not Ravenloft. I know that obviously I do these videos about Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. It's not a horror novel. It's more epic fantasy, kind of more in the style of Forgotten Realms, Honor Among Thieves and that kind of thing. Whether this is the first video you've watched or you've watched a lot of my videos, if I've ever helped you in any way, please do check it out. I think there's a link in my bio. There's an old, I've published a novel video that I've done that talks about the first one. Please do consider buying a copy. It would mean the world to me. And we'll leave it there. Thank you, Mist Wanderers.